Welcome to 5 for 5, the podcast where you get to hear the stories of the players, coaches, and people who made history at Arkansas State with 5 head coaches in 5 years. We won championships, set records, and took the Red Wolves to a new level. We proved there's more than one way to win. The only thing that stayed the same was Adidas, Ron Carroll, and the 10 stubborn men who refused to leave. Join us as we look behind the scenes and explore this football journey. Now, here's your host, Kenny Rainmaker Rain.
Hi, my name is Kenny Rains, and I am the Rainmaker. Played tight end at Arkansas State from 2010 to 2014, and was part of the group of 10 guys that had 5 head coaches in 5 years. So for those of you that don't know about this little moment in history at Arkansas State, this is the only time, at least that I'm aware of, in any level of college football history that a university had 5 head coaches in 5 seasons. So those 5 guys were Steve Roberts, who took Arkansas State from the FCS level to the FBS level. Then you had Hugh Freeze, who took over in 2011. You had Gus Malzahn, who came from Auburn to take over in 2012. Brian Harsin, who came from University of Texas in 2013. And finally, you had Blake Anderson, who came over from North Carolina in 2014. And so what also is just really unique about this period of time and having that much turnover was the fact that we were consistently good. We had one of the winningest records in Arkansas State history. By the time my class graduated, we had 38 wins in 5 years, 34 wins in the 4 years we were all eligible. And so it really was just an incredible time for me, at least. It certainly was a time that God used to shape and mold me into who I am today. And so what really started this entire project was I had a friend of mine named Jackson Nast who was listening to the radio station up in Jonesboro, Arkansas, which is where Arkansas State's located at. And they were talking about the group of us 10 guys and just kind of going through each one of us and, just giving a little bit of a background on us. And so I was about to have my son about a year ago in 2020, and just really thought it'd be a cool gift to be able to tell him my story, my words, so that way, he can always have that. His kids can have that. For those of you that don't know as well, my father passed away, about 4 years ago. So, and also my wife's father's passed away as well. And so it's something to where we both certainly would love to have more memories of our dads. And so as a gift to my son, I just really wanted him to always have, this story. I think it's a really cool story. It's just fascinating how diverse the group of guys were that came together. Had over 250 different players on these 5 different teams, upwards of 70 coaches, depending on how you count GAs and how long somebody has to be there to count. So it was just wild how diverse the backgrounds were of people that were there. You have guys like my good friend Alan Wright, who is from Cave City, Arkansas, just out in the country. He's a chicken farmer now. And then you had guys like Josh Jarbo, who's from College Park, Atlanta, Georgia. And we had a guy from South Africa. We've had players from California, Florida, I believe New York. So all over the country. And, no matter what the background was, we were all able to come together, united under a common purpose in pursuit of a common goal and really do some incredible things. We won 3 conference championships. We went to 4 straight GoDaddy Bowl games down in Mobile, Alabama. We won 2 of them. And just really also, if you look at the coaches, not just the head coaches, the big names, even some of the assistants and coordinators in what they're doing now. And I think you'll see a lot more of it. You had Eli Drinkwitz, who's currently is recording this. It can always change, and that's the interesting thing about it, is it's musical chairs in college football. But he is the head coach of Missouri. Just heard that Tom Allen's the head coach over at Indiana. And you've got a lot of these guys who will eventually be big names as they continue to build their records, and they all have one common stopping ground, and that was a pit stop over at Arkansas State. And so that's basically what the premise of this podcast is I wrote a book. It's called 5 for 5. It's currently, as of recording this, not out now. Should launch roughly looking at July of 2022. And so, wrote that book. And as I'm just calling guys and we're just reliving memories, we talk for an hour. It's just like we'd pick up where we left off the last time we talked to each other, no matter how long it had been. And so as I'm doing this, I just thought, man, it'd be really awesome to record these as podcasts and just kind of let them out. And, really my vision for this podcast, at least, is to give an opportunity to each player, each coach, or even people associated with any of those 5 teams. They don't have to be one of the 10 guys. So if you are associated with any of those 5 teams, I'd love for you to reach out to me and we can get together and try to get you on the podcast at some point. There's an awful lot of people, so hopefully planning on releasing 1 or 2 of these a week. We'll just kind of see how it goes. Anyway, it's been a really fun project to just go back and think about those memories, and it's always so interesting to me as well that every time you talk to somebody, there's something that you didn't quite remember, or you see it from a different perspective, and it just adds color and a fullness to the story. And it's just a fascinating story. So I mentioned briefly the 10 guys. So I'm one of those 10 guys. The 9 other guys include Q Lee, you had Sterling Young, Frankie Jackson, Ryan Jacobs, Andrew Tryon, you had Alan Wright, Tyler Grieve, William Boyd, and Brock Barnhill, and then myself, Kenny Rains. And so that rounds up the 10 stubborn men. We were named the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette Sportsman of the Year back in the day, 2014. They all kind of run together when you have that many people. But we're obviously going to get those guys on the podcast, and the goal is to also talk to the different head coaches, the different players, and like I said, just over time, just kind of give a platform and an opportunity for anybody that wants to share their story. As a general flow for most of the podcast episodes, it'll be just kind of what's your background? Where did you come from? How did you get to Arkansas State? We'll talk about just moments and stories in time while that person was at Arkansas State. And, to me, it's trying to pull out some of the different life lessons. I know I certainly learned so much from all of the different coaches and players during my tenure at Arkansas State. And, some lessons that I use every day. There was one that I thought of even yesterday. I'm an engineer now. So I got my electrical engineering degree, a bachelor's in electrical engineering, and got my master's in engineering management while I was there, and had all of it paid for by Arkansas State football scholarship. So that was something I'm still incredibly thankful for, that opportunity, and grateful to Steve Roberts. But even as I was at a customer, I just thought about, how did you become better at something? And I think back to Walt Bell, who was my offensive coordinator in 2014 under Blake Anderson. And we were having a little bit of a rough practice, and he's getting on to us. And he just says, guys, if you want to get better at flying kites, you fly kites. If you want to get better at kissing girls, you kiss girls. You guys suck at football, so you need to play some football. And it's just this notion that if you want to get better at something, you have to just do the thing, whatever it is. If you want to get better at engineering, you need to go and do something in regards to engineering. If you want to get better even at podcasts, you go and do podcasts. Whatever that thing is, you have to just go and do it. There's not a way around that. And so there's just many life lessons like that. So that's also kind of going to be a common theme you'll see, is just asking these different people, what was, if you could just teach your kid one lesson that you learned, what would it be? And I'll start that off. For me, it certainly would just be perseverance. It would be never giving up, no matter how bleak the circumstances is, no matter what you're faced with. Just keep going. And that was something that I certainly had to do several times while I was in college, and won't get into all of that this episode, give you something to look forward to in the future. But that really, if I had to just sum up in one word what it would be, and that would be perseverance. So with that said, some of the other cool things associated with this project is there's a website that I'm still working on. It's up, it's running, so you can go check it out, but it's called 5for5journey.com. And the goal of that website is essentially to be a database of all of the pictures, all of the film, everything from 2010, 2011, 12, 13, and 14. All 5 of those teams having an ability to host the pictures and videos, and just be able to have a place for anybody to go back and relive those memories. So not just football players, there's pictures of band, there's pictures of just the staff of Arkansas State back then, of cheerleaders, of fans. I mean, there's one of my favorite pictures that I found, and shout out to Jerry Scott for sending me the pictures. We always wondered how we got Gus Malzahn going into 2012 season. You know, he had just won a national championship with Gene Chizik down in Auburn back in 2010 with Cam Newton, and there's a guy who's actually holding up this picture, and it's this little poster at the GoDaddy Bowl, and it says, "I gave my right arm for Gus Malzahn," and he's holding up his little stub of his right arm, and it's just, oh, it's great. So there's just a lot of pictures to go back and just relive the memories. And so that's really the goal of the website. That's the goal of the podcast, is to go and just have an opportunity to laugh, to cry, to whatever it is, and just go back and relive the experiences. The book itself is called 5for5 Journey, or 5for5, a Rainmaker's Journey through 5 head coaches in 5 years. And the premise of it is, it's essentially this whole story, but through my eyes. And so, you know, the intended audience is my son. I want to be able to have him have it for the rest of his life, and, you know, be able to show his kids. And that's just something I know for me when I look at like my grandpa, and, you know, his big thing was World War II. He signed up for the Air Force when he was 19. He even went to Ole Miss on a football scholarship. He was an All-American coming out of Jonesboro, Arkansas. He was a stud, and just loved going back and looking at pictures of him. I would give just about anything to be able to have some audio and video of him. So that's a big reason for this, is to be able to preserve those things and be able to build a legacy that not just me, not just my family either, but any of us associated with those teams have an opportunity in a place where that history can live. So with that said, what I'd like to do now is just read the book intro. So let me go ahead and get that pulled up on the computer, and we'll go ahead and read that. This is the intro for the book 5for5, A Rainmaker's Journey Through 5 Head Coaches in 5 Years. There have only been 10 players to have 5 head coaches in 5 years throughout college football history. I was one of those 10, and I played with the other 9. We never had the same head coach an entire calendar year either. Every year was trying to adapt to the new situation that was presented to me. Every year was trying to make a good impression on the new staff and learn the new offense and all the peculiarities of new coaches. On top of being a part of a launching pad for several top-notch collegiate coaches, we were also there to witness the last losing season of ASU football to 3 straight conference championships, 4 straight bowl appearances, and 2 bowl wins. When our class graduated, we had tied for the winningest record in Arkansas State history with 38 wins over a 5-year period and 34 wins over the 4 years we were all eligible. We did this with more than 250 different players and well over 50 coaches. Our teams consisted of people from every background you could imagine. We were all unique, yet we were all united under the pursuit of a common goal. One thing many people don't know is there should have been an 11th man on our crew that was 5for5. That man was Markel Owens. Markel was a defensive tackle and was the type of guy that would cheer up a room just by walking in it. He was always making light of whatever we were going through, whether that was joking with coaches they would only be there 1 year, or even taking off his pads at halftime thinking a game was already over. Markel always made us smile. But a week after the bowl game, our redshirt junior year, tragedy struck. After the bowl game, we all went home to hang out with our friends and family for a couple of weeks before we had to report back to Arkansas State for school. All of us were worn out and ready to relax for a while after one of the craziest bowl wins against Ball State in Arkansas State history. A week into our break, we got some gut-wrenching news. Markel went home to Jackson, Tennessee to be with his mom, brother, and stepfather. With less than a week left before we returned, 2 armed men broke into Markel's family's house. They forced the family together and then executed Markel's stepfather in front of them. At this point, Markel jumped up and tackled one of the armed men to defend his mom and brother. Markel was shot in the process, but did manage to force the armed men to run from the scene. Markel bled out in the hospital shortly after the shooting and died on January 15, 2014. Markel was 21 years old, with his entire life ahead of him. He was trying to protect the people he loved more than anyone else in the world and paid the ultimate price to save them. When we all heard the news, we were shocked. None of us could believe that Markel was murdered. He was a great guy that would never hurt anyone. The most trouble he ever got in was a personal foul in a bowl game. Immediately, we were all called back to hear the news in person from our new head coach, Blake Anderson. That was the most emotional introduction we had to a coaching staff. We all sat in disbelief as Coach Anderson told us the news about Markel and that we would go as a team in uniform to his funeral in Jackson, Tennessee that week. The room was filled with silence. All you could hear were sniffles. Markel was one of the most loved guys on our team. He always made us smile, laugh, and get through difficult times over the years with a great sense of humor. Now he was gone. That funeral was one of the saddest I had ever been to. Here was a young man about to graduate with a degree cut down in his prime over something that had nothing to do with him. He was the wrong guy at the wrong place at the wrong time. It seemed horrible timing to us, but if you had asked Markel to pick between giving his life or losing his family, he would have chosen to give his life every time. A couple of months before Markel and Sir G had a conversation, Markel said he would give his life for his mom in a heartbeat. "I'm not playing. I would do anything for my mom. I would die for my mama." Words can't describe the emotions at the funeral that day. Everyone was torn up and our hearts went out to Markel's mom and little brother. I tell this story to you because it is a story that deserves to be told. I have never seen a better example of the gospel in my life than what Markel did for his mom and brother. He truly lived out John 15:13. Greater love has no one than this, that someone lay down his life for his friends. Markel gave up his life for his family. That is a love that will never be forgotten. So remember when you hear about the 10 players with 5 coaches in 5 years, that just like in football, you take the field with 11 men. That year we played 1 man down, and our group will remain 1 man down for the rest of time. Markel, we love you and hope your memory will continue to live on in the lives of your mom, brother, and all of the others you affected in your life. Many great stories happened during those 5 years, both on and off the field. There was laughter, pain, adversity, perseverance, triumph, and heartbreak. That was when the foundation was laid that we would build the rest of our lives on. This book is an attempt to tell that story through the eyes of one of the players who witnessed this spectacular football journey, along with the personal trials and tribulations he faced along the way. I want to talk a little bit about Markel Owens. So Markel Demario Owens was a great friend of all of us, any of us that played on from that 2010 to that 2013 team. I mean, we all loved Markel. And, that was one of the things that came up a lot whenever I was talking to different guys about our time at Arkansas State was just Markel and just funny stories about him and, just how much joy he brought to our lives. And so one of the things I hope that this project can do as well is really serve as a tribute to him and be able to have a spot on the website where we can upload photos and videos of him. And, it's something to where, I think our story, the 10 of us guys going 5 for 5, I know we all jokingly hope that someday that becomes a 30 for 30, and maybe it will, who knows. But I would just really love to see, just have us have a way to really kind of memorialize Markel. And I know that's something that his mom, Miss Tremaine, I got to talk to her about Markel and just kind of hear the story from her and just hear some stories about him growing up, and really look forward to having her on the podcast to represent Markel. And, he was just really a great guy. And one of the things that I got to see and hear recently was just a little video that Markel had put up on his YouTube page back in 2012, where he just gives an introduction of himself. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and play that video, and you can hear an introduction straight from Markel himself.
How's everybody doing out there? My name is Markel Owens. I'm a junior here at Arkansas State. My major is sports management and business, with an emphasis in business management. How I got where I'm from Jackson, Tennessee. That's about an hour away from Memphis, Tennessee. A lot of people don't know where that's at. Well, usually when I say I'm from Jackson, a lot of people think that I'm talking about Jackson, Mississippi, but I'm actually talking about Jackson, Tennessee. That's where I was born and raised by my grandparents and my mother, because my mother had me at a young age. I also have a younger brother who was 14. How I got to Arkansas State. I got to Arkansas State. I came up here the summer before my senior year in high school to a football camp, and I earned an athletic scholarship to come and play football. So in February of my senior year in high school, I decided to sign the letter of intent to come play football for Arkansas State. So yes, I am a member of the Arkansas State football team, a proud member of the Arkansas State football team. Some of my hobbies are playing games, listening to music, hanging with my teammates, and sleeping any chance I get. Those are some of my hobbies. I'm real big on family, so everything I do it for my family. Everything, like all my drive, it comes from my family. Some of my goals after graduating was because I want to get a degree in sports management. So I want to be a sports agent. And if I'm not able to be a sports agent and also have my own sports agency, and if I'm not able to do that, or if I want to venture off into something else, I would like to become a high school football coach, or just a football coach in general. Anything having to do with sports, that's what I'd be willing and wanting to do with my time, is just be involved with football, because that's been my first love since I was 5 years old. But that's just a little something about me. Be happy to look at you all's videos and see how things are going. And thank you.
So for many of you like me, that could have been the first time that you've heard from Markel, heard his voice at all since 2013. And so anyway, I just want to say, I hope that we can honor him, and I hope that this project kind of serves as that. But I want that to be the same for anybody during this time, is just the opportunity for us to kind of paint the picture of this history and have a place where it can live. So with that said, some different plans for this project is we'll go through and we'll do these podcasts. I'm working on editing the book over the next year, and we'll put videos and pictures on the website. You can check us out on social media. On my personal Facebook page, I'm going to try to post the podcast when they come up. So Kenny Rains, Facebook. I also made a Facebook page, 5 for 5, and then also an Instagram and a Twitter. I really don't like social media, but I understand that it's necessary evil for this sort of stuff. So I will be trying to put as much as I can on there. And so the best way that you can help out with this project, period, is talk about it. Be just talking about it to other people. Share it. Would appreciate if you share it and let others know about it. And that's really the best thing. At this point, I'm good for money, and at some point I'll try to make some ways to support that. But just talking about it would be by far the best way to support us at the moment and support this project. So with that said, I hope you all enjoy it. I certainly have enjoyed working on it, and I'm really looking forward to hearing these stories and being able to give them an opportunity, and everybody an opportunity that wants to share their story. So thank you for coming on with us on this journey. Have a good one.